Hi everyone, welcome to Skilled Home, and today will be a very interesting podcast. It will be free flow. We have pretty much solid individuals over here. Everybody is a leader. Everybody is, I think, a leader in the industry. It's Greg, Adam, Mo, Mr. Aidan. Everybody is here, and we will try to dig deep into, I think, personal motivation, why we're doing what we're doing, why people quitting from the things that they're doing, and how to keep them motivated, and how to find those triggers and drivers to keep them going. Mr. Aidan, can you please give me, I hope you're not getting offended, it will give me a couple of times and I'll do it perfectly. Can you please give me an idea why usually people quit from, like for example, for us as a fitness professionals, we always get at the beginning of the January or whatever, people comes, I will do everything, and they quit. 99% of the students quit, 1% remain. Why people quit?
I actually think it's a very simple answer. I think it's something the last couple of years I've become much more clear on, and it's lack of awareness. I think a lot of people try to change the behavior without the awareness, and they always end up falling back, because you often hear the brain doesn't care about your happiness. It cares about survival. It cares about saving energy. So it's always looking for the reflex. It's always looking for the habit. So when people have programmed habits and different things for years and years and years, I always say it takes more than a couple of conversations and meditations to fix decades of work. So the first thing is when a client can become aware, that's the first thing I do with every client is let's get the awareness first. Let's be the observer. Let's notice. What are your patterns of thought? What are your emotional reactions? What are your physical actions? Everybody tries to go out and change first. That's why I need to get up early. Last 2 days, goes back to bed. Stays in bed late. I need to be better with money. They do it for a while, then they stop. I'm not going to drink alcohol. They do it for a while, and then they stop. They're trying to change behavior based on something they think they want, without the awareness of who they are, why they're behaving like that in the first place. It's a lack of clarity. And that's the thing. I think most people aren't teaching that. They're trying to teach you how to change the behaviors, how to have more habits, how to have more discipline. I don't believe in that. I believe awareness is way more powerful than discipline. Because when you're fully aware, you're making a choice from that place of clarity, from truth. And unfortunately today, most people aren't. But it's good for me, I guess. I have a good business, But that's the mission, is to get the awareness back in people so that they realize they have the power to choose. But they have to find truth first. They have to have clarity, and then they have to have a vision, something that's going to pull them, to anchor them into action. Without that vision, again, it's temporary motivation, and that just doesn't last.
Cool. And may I ask you more? For you, please. You also run in retreats, and you work with people, and you bring lots of influencers, and you create masterminds also to dig deep and find you usually talk about purpose. May I ask you, Aidan, purpose and awareness, is it the same? And more, please continue. Purpose, awareness, is it the same?
Similar, yeah. Once you have clarity, I always say curiosity leads to clarity. Like, be curious first and you're going to find clarity. You're going to ask the right questions, you're going to find the answers. And once you find the clarity, now it's easier to get the purpose. If you don't find out who you are, if you don't find out what the program is running underneath, you're creating a vision or a desire based on false data. It's not based on truth. So you can't really get the real purpose until you get the clarity. But once you have the clarity, okay, now what is my purpose? Now why am I here? What is my mission? I always say the mission is alignment. People often do things for the money or the status or to give them something they think they need. Once you find your truth, that's kind of what I do and kind of my brand. Once you find your truth, now I've healed, I heal whatever needs to be healed. Now I can say, okay, what do I want? Who am I really? Where am I going? What am I becoming? And that's just what I've seen. Maybe you can.
Yeah, I think for me, and from the experience I have gone through, it goes back to the question of why. Simon Sinek talks about the why, and asking about our intentions about every activity that we do in life is very important, but that goes back to whether or not we have that self-awareness. For example, in the retreat, my why is to create a community. It was about how do we really come as individuals who are looking forward to level up our game in life, whether that is mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And that's when we started talking about let's come together and build these kind of small fragmented pieces and put them all all together in an integrated retreat. And now this also happens in ballrooms when you go and you meet meetings. And I go to meetings sometimes and I'm like, what am I doing here? And I feel this whole question about what is my purpose in life often comes. And I don't necessarily always find the answer. It's like sometimes I feel the purpose is clear. And then as I go through a certain project and I get that aspiration done, I'm like, I lost the purpose. I lost the spark. So I'm also in that between of trying to find what is really a purpose, because I don't think a purpose is that thing that is one time figured out and it's fixated. It's something that it keeps evolving as I go. But I don't know if that answers your question. And like for me, it's...
I don't think so. There's an answer. There is only your personal experience.
Right.
And for example, that's what I wanted to ask next to Adam. For you, people usually come in pain and they also keep quitting from the sessions. They go out from you without fixing the things, right? A lot. For sure, you have a lot of experience like that. Like they subscribe, they say, I'm in pain, help me. And then you set up a vision and they skip halfway through. Also, what does it mean? They was not that aware, they didn't have a purpose, or it was only just to try? What do you think?
I think it only happens when the people don't change the behavior. So the behavior is the main key. Like if you want to fix something for good, you need to change how you're sitting, how you're standing, how you're walking. So like if you don't change the bad behavior, what you learn over the time, you are not ready for change your mindset, the way how you program your movement, then you're going to fall. Because like fixing the body is not only that someone is going to come and is doing the physical therapy for you, is going to release the pressure and pain, but it's required from you. That's why I give people a lot of homework to do at home, as they need to constantly think how they standing, how they sitting. If 1 hour a day you're going to only focus to do something for your body, doing corrective posture exercise, but then 8 hours you're sitting wrong in the desk, it's not going to get you out of pain. So like to be able to reach a success and fixing your pain, fixing your posture, you need to reprogram the way how you were standing, what you were doing wrong in your life. And then it's gonna get you to the point where you want to be. So it's more, so I think it's much more like deeper into to be able to help someone. It's like often people are in pain, like back pain, for example, and there is like a deep mental, even trauma. So like fixing someone is gonna be like a lot of emotional thing. Yes, that's why I involve the therapy, which is focused on the beginning on breathing and releasing pressure what the people hold. Yes, and by activating diaphragm and releasing the pressure, it helps people to really fix a lot of mental, the trauma what they are holding, and then is also a lot of work on the body and mind connection. And that is a step to be able to later on remove the pain and then fixing alignment and strengthen the body in the correct way. So it's a...
I even heard that the people, when they fix the behavioral changes, they start to lose weight immediately just by themselves, because they like, I don't know,
it's crazy. It's crazy. Like the people come for my session, they sweat sometimes more than during cardio, because they're removing the pain, working on the fascia. It makes you a lot of effort, whether you can feel that you're burning and you going, like you probably discovered during the first session that was quite pain, but it was a pain which was like good pain, removing bad pain. And on the next day you feel even worse, but then it comes another day when you feel that gives me relief. Yes.
Yeah, when you talk, I keep reflecting in my head. I was attending more retreat. It was in December. It was such a cool event. Lots of interesting speakers all over the world. And the guys was digging deep inside themselves. They was working on themselves. And, those experience, if you think this way, it was pretty, like if you say, of course, it's courageous, but also intimidating. So, for example, talk with Aidan also like, healing yourself, and like you say, when you heal yourself, everything else start to fix. Same when Mo was doing his retreat, the guys was digging deep, they was releasing emotional layers and everything. So let's step back and let's think, okay, we find out that lots of things going on, maybe we cannot stop at the moment, fix them one by one, but we're losing our purpose, we're losing our maybe sometimes consciousness, awareness, we're doing lots of things automatically. But to stop this routine and to go back to like inner self, everything, it's pretty intimidating. It's pretty scary. To meet yourself in the mirror. For example, we switch off the lights and everything, sit and look in yourself, and like you might go through very dark experience, right? So, Aidan, what do you think? I'm sure you dealt with lots of people who was very scared to meet themselves? How to advise them?
Absolutely. And that's why I acknowledge every client I have. I think they have so much courage, and unfortunately, like I get messages every day from people. I want to change. I want to grow. I want to do this. They don't really want. They just like the story. Because the truth is, facing yourself is messy work. It's uncomfortable. And especially when you dive deep into yourself, you really look into that darkness, and it is dark. But, one of the things I've been telling clients for years, and I have it in a book coming out shortly, is you have to love the parts of yourself you don't like. Because all of that darkness was actually formed at a time you needed protection, a time you felt fear, a time you felt judged, a time you felt abandoned. When we're kids, we don't know how to, interpret it. We just know the emotion. And I often say, even if you had a good childhood, maybe your dad couldn't make the match. He wanted to be, he was working. Or maybe you heard your parents arguing. All these different things happen as a child, and we create these things in our personalities. And when they're not addressed, when they remain kind of unconscious, they form over decades, and then they become parts of our personality. And we don't know why we do things. So the first thing is be willing to seek, to look into yourself. Okay, why? Because I often say people come to me out of one or two times, inspiration or desperation. Inspiration is when things are good and they want to be better. Most of the time it's when desperation, when things are bad and people say, I can't take it anymore. And then they finally get the courage to look into themselves. So it takes courage and an intention to be willing to look in. And when you do, you have to be kind to yourself. You have to be gentle with yourself, and you have to be with someone who knows where to look and what the path is that they should walk down, so you can shine the light. Like, I can shine the light for a client, but they have to walk it. That requires courage. That requires a decision. But that's the only place you're going to find true freedom. And I'm sure you know that more from your retreats. The people who face themselves and walk towards that darkness, they're the ones who actually have the real power. Because once you do that, once you face yourself, I think it's the most courageous thing you can do. Everything else is distraction. Everything else is distraction. Being willing to look into yourself is the bravest thing you can do, but it reaps the biggest rewards. And for me, it's about getting people to see that and feel that, so that they're like, oh, I like this sort of feeling. That's the ultimate freedom. When you're young, in my opinion, people want time and financial freedom. I think we've all been there at some point. Time and financial freedom. But once you get time and financial freedom, what do you want? Mental and emotional freedom. That's the most important, because even if you have loads of time and money, but if you don't like yourself, if you're mentally and emotionally not in a good place. So for me, I call that ultimate freedom. Time, financial, mental, emotional, and then spiritual. That's the key. That's all that matters, actually. Everything else is illusion, because you can have gold in your pocket, you can have the big job, great relationship, but if you don't know who you are and why you are the way you are and what you want, you're always going to suffer. So yes, to answer your question, it's messy, it's hard, but it's the best thing you can do. And it's the only way to find true freedom, is to walk that path back to you.
Cool. Mo, can you share please experience based on you being all around the world and practice?
I love how, Aidan, you shared about inspiration and desperation. It reminds me of Dr. George Dispenza's work when he talks about people normally change either from a place of pleasure or from a place of pain. And I remember when this whole idea of the retreat came about, it was about how do we actually have the three pillars that when we work within ourselves, that we can actually start working together as like groups, and then from there we can go and flow and do collective changes. So it was three main keywords that we used as a theme: the ground, in an individual level. That's where we go on deep and we touch into the emotions. We tap into why are we actually doing certain behaviors or actions that are tapped into our subconscious, which is the autopilot behaviors, which we don't really know. And it's 95% of our activities, studies has shown that mainly are linked to the autopilot kind of thing. So it's like it requires the awareness. So we had to go through a lot of workshops to dig deeper. Why are we actually treating or seeing certain words? So there's a lot of workshops around that. Then we went to another level where we were being able to sit in a container of a group of men to be able to see and reflect each other's stories in our own self. And that by itself requires courage to go and stand up and talk about your vulnerabilities. And then from there, it was more about flow and how do we as a collective be able then to shine this magic that we felt within us to others. And so like for me, it's about self-awareness is an ever-evolving journey. The more I dig deeper, things I want to know more about myself, whether it's in my childhood, the traumas that I have experienced, the more I find myself going deeper and deeper, and there is no end. It's like another layer. And so, I would only say that going in this journey of self-awareness is very rewarding, and I can see the shifts within me every time I'm like sitting there. And yes, it's a very uncomfortable journey, and I would come to a point where like I'm like, really, like I just don't feel doing it. But then it comes back to me that if I don't do it for myself, nobody else is going to show up for me.
And this is, I think, why things like retreats are so powerful, or what you're creating here, Greg, with this kind of immersion. I think I work with people, I call it a 90-day season to begin with. You have to immerse yourself, because today the world is pulling you away from your true self. The world wants you in distraction mode. It wants you in need mode, spend mode, because the world wants consumers of attention. The world doesn't care about your happiness. Like, you have to make a decision. That's why I call it back to me. That's kind of my brand. Everything is back to me. My book, podcast, everything's back to me. You have to have a choice, make a decision to go back to you, because the world is going to pull you away from you. That's all it wants to do. And that's why it likes the retreats. When you go there and you're surrounded by that collective energy and you see other people walking the path and you're getting ideas and inspiration, that's like an immersion, right? It kind of surrounds you and it helps you stay focused on that journey. But if you're out there by yourself and you're scrolling Instagram, watching Netflix and listening to all these different distractions, you're going to be pulled left, right, and center. And it's the same before Adam with his clients. When I work with him, I want to see him as much as possible, because if it's not, because for me, like the movement and all the mobility, that's painful and hurtful. And I don't want to do that. So my mind's always going to look for a way out. Scroll, shop, eat, talk. So when I'm around him, I'm going to give myself the best chance. And that's what every person has to do. They have to give themselves the best chance. That's why having a great coach, having a great facility, a great gym, a retreat, having people who've already walked the path around you so that you get elevated and pulled by them. Because it's hard to make it by yourself. Because again, the mind wants out, and the world is going to help you always find a way out. Nobody cares about you. I always say that, right? No one's coming to save you. You have to take responsibility for you. And when you do that, there's no limits. Like you said, it's just levels and levels and levels. So.
Yeah, I think it's...
So from the busy lifestyle, it's important to find a time that you can escape and you can go, like, for example, from the busy life, like in Dubai, big city, you can escape and you can go to like Sri Lanka, for example, stay in the jungle, just clear your mind to be able to be more efficient in the business in the same time for the later. Like, stay disconnected from the phone, from any devices. That's important. Like, I think a lot of people struggle nowadays that they are too much time they're spending on Facebook or Instagram, yes? And I think it's not only bad for the health, but also for the mental.
Mental, yeah.
I mean, for the physical.
Yeah.
Both.
Well, when we're talking, I keep...
Breaking shoulders. I mean, the physiotherapy makes money. When the people spending, scrolling all the time, shoulder. I have clients as well, but however, I try to teach people, to find a time and correct that. If I want my clients achieve the success, yes, and correct the posture for good and solve the pain, I have to teach them to stay away from devices, at least use them in a correct way. And this is the hardest thing to do, I found, because I had many times clients that I told them the reality, the truth, that this phone and this position, how you're standing now, this is making you pain. Yes, but however, they finish the session, then they come back to the same thing. And this is what I say, like, this is what you need to reprogram. And this is the hardest, I think, for many people to understand that this certain thing makes you worse.
True. And then don't you think, like, because when we talk, I think, like, for example, scrolling, why we're scrolling and do like other useless things is to make ourselves numb. It's pretty also sometimes you keep scrolling and the fingers just keep going through the...
Did you experience that when you were scrolling, you feel like it's coming like the tension and...
No, I feel...
I experienced something like that in my life, and this is not nice.
Yeah, I feel myself, I know that I'm losing time, I know that I'm doing something unproductive, but I want this period of unconscious. So what do you think? I feel it's my personal weakness, but I know people just keep doing it just to numb themselves from the reality. Is it like that?
Yeah, again, it's distraction mode. It's just not wanting to face yourself. Like when you're ultimately feeling pain, feeling hurt, the mind is designed to protect you from that pain. So the mind wants to get you out of there. That's why some people, they can't handle difficult conversations. They can't handle just sitting with themselves because the emotion that's there is uncomfortable. It's pain, it's suffering, it's a version of suffering in some way. It could be thoughts, could be anxiety, it could be the blues, could be sadness. And the mind just wants to get you out of there. And because the world wants you consuming everything else, big food, big pharma, big everything, it's all right there. It's so easy. But it requires a decision. Like if you don't have before actions come feelings. If you don't have enough reasons to stop, you're not going to stop. And that's why you have to be a seeker. You have to get clear on what's my vision. Like I work with some really high level executives, investment banks, big companies, worldwide companies, and you think they'd have a vision, but they don't. Like they have ideas of what they think they want, but they don't actually have a vision. The vision should be clear, specific, emotionally charged. Only when that vision is like that, it can pull you. You have to transcend out of your old self, and you can't push yourself to transcend. That's why people, and I was teaching this for years, like 5 tips for this and 10 strategies to this. It's all just painting over the cracks. I realized I had a bit of an awakening about 1.5 years ago, and I realized it's not about getting more and being more. It's about letting go of everything that's not for your highest good. It's about letting go of everything that's not you. Like that's the work. You don't have to be more. You're already complete. You have to let go of everything you've collected. And you're only going to do that when you make a decision, when you seek it, when you're pulled by it. That's the only thing that's strong enough, that's magnetic enough to pull you. When you're trying to do discipline, get up early, trying to force yourself other things, that's work. It's effort, right? No, why do you want to live like that? To be disciplined. I don't want to be more disciplined. I want to be aware. Because when I'm aware, I choose to eat this type of food. I choose to sit this way. I choose to move my body. I choose to communicate like this. I choose to be a person of integrity because it's in alignment with my truth. But all these people out there, and this is the shift I've had, everybody from mainstream is like, do this habit, this hack, this discipline. Nobody wants to go through life forcing themselves to get up early and eat right. You want to be aware enough to choose from your truth. That's the key. And if you do that, if you can start asking the question first, you just have to be curious. Curiosity leads to clarity. You're going to find all the answers are within. But you have to make a decision to look in the first place and to not make conclusions. Last point on this is something I always say is the more conclusions you make, the less alive you become. Most people's biggest problems is they've made conclusions. This is the way it is. It's not. It's just the way you've conditioned. It's just the way you've settled, and it's the way you've decided to be. But everything, you have to question everything. You have way more power than you realize.
Don't you think it's when we step into this awareness and we know more what we are doing, it's a little bit lonely road. Like people will freak out from you, I think, at certain time. And obviously you need to change your... For us, it's good. We have good community. I mean, we build it, but for lots of people, community is not healthy. So they need to step out from their community. Like how many students for sure you have, Adam, I have, who say, I'm fine, but with the friends, we went to the restaurant, we eat, for example, the garbage and everything. So I say, okay, have a courage to step out from this community or meet them on some neutral territory where you don't need to share drinks or smokes or alcohols with them. So, but I think when the people see that the person start to work on themselves and start to dig deep and, as you said, search those initial motives, they start to a little bit step out from them.
It is lonely. It is absolutely a lonely path, but staying stuck somewhere you don't want to be is another form of suffering. You have to. That's why I always say it requires courage, and I encourage everybody to acknowledge themselves. We have to teach people how to acknowledge themselves when they do take a step, because it does require courage, and people will judge you. But everybody sees something. They know you're doing something that they should be doing. Like I often say, one person might ask the question, but everybody's thinking the question. So when one person finally makes the courage in a group to make a decision to go change direction, there's oftentimes judgment and everything else. But once the person starts to get a taste of that freedom, everybody else, you can't help but notice that. And that inspires you, or that, you go into denial mode even more. And at that point, you'll know who your real friends are, because your real friends want you to elevate. They want you to spread. They want you to expand what's possible. And if they're not the right people. So, it's a good, I like to say it's a good kind of check. It's a good, I said, like term, it's just good to check the temperature of these friendships. Take a step towards your highest self. How do the people around you respond? Because oftentimes people are just friends with you because it suits them, because they had you the way they like to have you. But what happens when you start taking responsibility and choosing you first? How do those people respond? Because the best people in your life, they'll support you and they'll be inspired by that. And I think then you attract your tribe. And you obviously know that more from your retreats and everything. Once you get in alignment, you attract the tribe. That vibrationally, that frequency helps you find other people. And that's when synchronicity starts to happen. Like how we ended up here having this chat. Like what had to happen for us to, there's too much coincidence. No, it's getting in alignment. It's finding that vibration, that frequency, that's your truth. And that's all you have to worry about. What's your truth? Not what everybody else's truth is. And then you'll be surprised how many people are matching you on that. And then, it gets easier after that.
What do you think if people are too strict about their goal? For example, you're going to find someone who wants to reach his goal and he's going to be too strict with his diet, with not drinking, for example, not going on party, just staying on the line. And then for those type of people, it's going to be hard to find friends because, you're not going with us on party. You're not going to drink alcohol. Eh? You're not eating with us this kind of food. You're going to eat the salad. Yeah, for example. Yeah. So you find this sometimes. Even I found the situation that it was a couple, for example, the guy, he was too strict with his diet and the lady couldn't take it. Yeah? And he was like, this guy is boring, yeah, for example.
That's a great question. But the question is the identity, when the people liked you with that identity, whoever that person was that your real identity? Was part of that identity real? Because then if it is, that'll always be there and that person will stay. But what if you were living illusion, which most people are living in illusion? All their habits, all the things, they've shaped them, who they are by the time they're 20s, mid-20s, 30s. It wasn't really them, actually. So then they started to wake up and find themselves, and then they noticed everybody else around them wasn't matching that vision, that standard, those standards. Then they weren't your real friends anyway. They served you for a purpose. Every relationship, every friendship, everything in your life serves you while you're there. But you have a choice to stay there. Maybe that, I call it contrast. Maybe that group of friends or that relationship was showing you what you don't want. So don't be judging yourself and feeling sad that, we're not friends anymore, or this relationship ended. No, that was the communication you needed to make you adjust direction. And if you really know yourself and you trust yourself, like, I want to run, I want to eat healthy, now you're in alignment, you're going to attract the people for this season in your life. And that season might be for life. But you have to understand that past season might just have been a season. There's no guarantee, but we as humans want to hold on to everything. We want to grab it, keep it, because we're afraid of life without it. We don't know ourselves without that person, without those friends, without the drinks, without the whatever we're looking for. And when you start to go back to you and find your truth, you get to see who you are without all those external things. Because the truth is, there's nothing external that can give you what you have inside. Everything you think the world outside will give you is illusion. That's why when you get the money, you buy the car, you have the watch, you have the house, you have the partner, you can still feel like shit. Why? Because it was illusion. The feeling you're searching for is in you anyway, but you're looking in the wrong place for it. And everybody finds that out at some point. The free will, I believe the free will God gave us is, we decide, do we learn that lesson later or do we learn it sooner? Do we learn it through pain or do we learn it through joy, and to what degree of each? That's what I believe. And the people who are in bad relationships or in bad friendships, it's actually a blessing, because it's communication. It's telling you, you don't belong here. This is not your crew. This is not your life. And if you listen to that, now a new pathway is going to open, and it's like, wow.
And it sounds to me like these answers that comes within needs stillness. I mean, if we 100%. Continue, like, at least from the way that I see it, a lot of people who continue jumping from something to another, I was one of them, I still sometimes fall into this trap, is that how do I actually pause and kind of go into that deep self-reflection? Because with that stillness, and a lot of people now do the meditations, but for me, meditation is really sitting with myself and being able to tap in the deepest question possible and try to dig deeper. Why was that behavior done in a certain way? So meditations is something that I normally try and practice, and the whole thing about having the balance between the being and the doing, right? So like, being in the doing a lot doesn't allow you to be in your being. And when you're not in your being, then you kind of lose the big picture. I don't know if you have anything to add in that.
Yeah, I love it because, a big thing, I call it just silence. I'm a big, I talk about silence a lot because today, unfortunately, when you say meditation, it puts almost a level of pressure people put on themselves because there's an expectation, like if I meditate, I'll get this result. And as you know, and you guys know, like whenever you have an expectation around meditation, it's not meditation. Like for me, my definition of meditation, it was through that experience I had over the last couple of years. It's when I dissolve back into myself, when I get out of mind and I dissolve back into that spirit, like God's presence in me, my truth, my highest self. Just silence, just by being the observer, being the witness. Don't put pressure on yourself to have to go and meditate. Just start with silence, being the observer, notice. And step by step, it's a journey like everything else. But unfortunately, people think, I can't meditate, so they don't allow silence. And to answer specifically your question, or to add to your thought, silence is the key. Because like I said, the world keeps you in distraction mode. Your brain learns through insights. It learns by receiving. Okay, so the way Alan Watts said this best, he said, like, if you're talking all the time, as if Greg is talking all the time, or if I'm talking all the time like I am now, I can't hear what Greg has to say. But if I'm thinking all the time, I can't hear what my higher self has to say. So if I don't stop those thoughts, I can't receive. And that's why when people get into flow, and even every client I coach, there comes a point they get way more ideas. I just had an idea. Because why? They've created space to receive. Because what the coaching did was it elevated out of themselves. It freed them of the chatter. It freed them of the noise. They created some space, and now they can receive. Because we're antennas, not just our mind. Our whole body's an antenna. And that's why everything we consume either blocks that frequency or frees it up. And when we free it up, we can receive insights. And I call that inspired action. We trust that. That's from truth. That's your truth. That's your connection to something higher. And silence is the only way to get that. And that's why the world does everything to keep you out of it today. So yeah, silence is key and stillness. But don't put pressure on yourself. I would say start with silence and grow from there. But then you're going to hear, like, miracles are there for everybody.
What do you think about watching media? Like if the people watching media on the TV every day, or they follow up, I think it's like a big stressor for your mind. Then that you were receiving too much information, and then it make you keep going and thinking about everything what the strategy, what the world is presenting. What's your thoughts about that?
I agree, but there's two sides to it. One is the brain changes, as we know, by what we put our attention on. Like we know it literally changes by what we focus on. So on one hand, we have to surround ourselves with things that are going to feed our mind. We have to protect our mind from what's not serving us. And I don't believe in positive or negative, by the way. Like there's no positive or negative. There's no good or bad. Everything is as it is. It's just our desire for control. Like if it matches our preference, it's good. If it doesn't suit our preference, it's bad. Like stop wasting energy labeling things good or bad. It's not. So the control is the big issue. Like people have a level of control. But when it comes to consumption, we have to feed our mind with the right stuff so that it keeps us looking in the right direction, that we keep out what we don't want. Again, what doesn't serve us, not negative or positive, but what doesn't serve us, and we take in what does serve us, what inspires us. That's the first thing. So if you're going to consume anything, make sure it's something that's for your highest good and greatest joy. The second thing, though, to your point, it's noise, it's distraction. So even if it is the right stuff, I remember I ran the marathon in Dubai in February. My running became a distraction. It stopped me finding silence. I didn't allow myself to create space, but it just happened to be a good distraction because I was running, I was training. And I guarantee you there's people listening to this who are distracted, they're in the best shape of their life, but they're sad, they're lonely, they're hurting because they're not healthy, they don't know themselves, they don't love themselves. So you have to create space, even if it's positive media, podcasts all day, everything. Only you have to touch the wisdom that's there for you, and the only way to touch that, receive that, is through silence. So for sure, then physiologically, it's an overload, right? It's another overload. Cortisol, adrenaline, stress. That's just my thoughts on it. What about you, Greg?
About this media and all the surrounding. For me, the main challenge what I'm facing, it's I'm reflecting on your words, what you said. It's very interesting, positive and negative. There is no my main trap, as you say, maybe I'm from the culture of judgmental culture a lot, and I keep evaluating is it good for me, not good for me, positive, negative, energy exchange and everything. And I found it takes so much of my operational memory. Like I keep seeing, does this person bring good intention, bad intention? Shall it be around me, not around me? And I'm so much careful about that. But at the same time, I know it's low. It's take half of my RAM. And I'm missing out so much things. Like, for example, imagine somebody comes and you're like, okay, I mean, I'm from such type of culture where we was needing to, I think, judge a lot in order to be, I don't know, but this is in my genes somehow. So you're like, okay, what this person brings, how our communication is going to be, is it good for me or not good for me, what will be the outcome? And this keep running. I might not even get into conversation. I will be just keep, into my own assumption. Then he'll answer for me something and I'll keep going on in my own assumption. I will not even hear him. So big trouble of mine. So, but that's why keep discussing.
That's a good place to start for people though. First, is it good for me? Is it bad for me? Like, it's a great place to start. Like, start there. Because if you're not listening at all and it's bad for you, you're going backwards, you're digging a hole deeper. So start there. But it's where you can go with the awareness. Again, coming back to the whole awareness thing. Once you get clarity in who you are and your truth, you don't even need to consciously think good or bad, positive. It's a feeling. You trust that feeling. They're around you or they're not. It's for your highest good or it's not. And you just choose from that awareness. But start with that. But the point you made about using your RAM, like everyone has a full tank of energy every morning. Every time we spend judging or labeling, we're losing energy. Again, it's stopping the receiving. Like, I'm a big believer in receiving mode. I always say we have to learn how to receive unexpectedly. Everybody's trying to force themselves to receive what they think they know they want. But that's so limited. Because you know what you know and you know what you don't know. But you don't know what you don't know. There's miracles out here. Everyone's so focused on magic here, but there's miracles out here. So you have to allow yourself to receive unexpectedly. And that comes from just, getting to know yourself again. That's all it's about, right? Once you know who you are, then you don't need to waste time on figuring out they serve me, they don't, they're good, they're bad. Wasting energy that you could be using creating. That's fuel for you to create, but instead you're thinking about the conversation you just had, the type of person they are. Should I meet them again? Should I not? Right?
It should answer itself, right? Yeah. I mean, what you said, if I'll figure out this inside myself, the answers will come automatically. I will not bother with
Once you learn to listen. And I just literally just released a podcast, and shameless self-plug there, my own podcast. It was all about listening. People often talk about active listening and coaching and stuff. It's not enough. I teach listen like your life depended on it. That's a different level of listening. And people don't do that, not to themselves, to their higher self, or not to others. So again, because the mind is always running, you have to create space. Back to what Mo said, you have to find that stillness. But that's an intention. It has to start. And that's from within. That voice is always within, but we're not listening because of the noise, because I'm labeling, I'm judging, I'm criticizing, I'm complaining.
Well, I heard, I don't know, a friend, we were having this conversation about synchronicities and miracles, and the conversation was about how do we actually allow our minds to kind of come into a place where we're not stuck. Like, for example, if let's say this spill of water gets dropped on the table and I become fixated, why did I do that? What happens is I'm actually not allowing another miracle to happen, because miracles continue happening every single now and then. And so if the miracles were actually becoming the burden between us and the miracle happening, I think this also has for me to go back to how we have that self-awareness. But then the question here is, how do we reach a point that we trust ourselves? I think trusting ourselves is something that I always kind of dig deeper into research, into sitting with people who are coaches or in personal development. And I don't really get that kind of piece of a nugget that I can actually say, well, I'm going to go and do that and strengthen my trust with myself. So I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, the biggest thing you have to do is trust yourself. I always say, people say, trust God, trust the universe. Well, trust yourself, because you are both those other things too, as alive in you, the real you is. And again, it comes back to clarity. Once you have clarity and you seek clarity and you get to know who you are, what you want, where you're going, who you're becoming, you start to feel that vision for your life. Once you start to feel it and you engage all senses, this is the key. A lot of people are busy mentally thinking about what they think they want. But when you get clear on, I can touch it, taste it, smell it, feel it, hear it, when I engage all my senses, this feels right in my heart. And the key is the heart. Everyone, even the metaphysical guys from years ago, and I love listening to all different kind of metaphysicals interpretation of everything, but they always talked about the imagination. They forgot about the heart. The heart is the key. And once you can feel that, now you start to imagine what that version of you looks like, talks like, walks like, and feels like. So again, two different things in my mind.
Sorry, Aidan, but don't it like create alter ego? Like you create somebody like who is not you, but you won't. Yeah.
No. So we often talked about, and I used to talk like the future you and the past you. There's no past or future. There's no good or bad. There's the awake you and the asleep you. And there's people, some of you guys are, and us people in general, we're awake in some aspects of our life, but we're asleep in other areas of our life. But when we can start to feel that what that awake version of us looks like, I kind of put it in this phrase, this tagline. We don't then think of our future, we think from our future. We don't think of our aware self, awake self, we think from it. So every day when you can get that silence and you can start to imagine, what does the real me look like, feel like, talk like? Remember earlier I said before actions come feelings. When you can get that feeling now, I'm choosing from that now. Then the key part, what Mo just said, is to trust yourself. I call it inspired action. Once you get that feeling of that truth of who you are and you feel it and you choose from that place of truth and you trust it, you will be in receiving mode. To me, that's how you get into receiving mode. You have to trust yourself. But how do you trust yourself? Well, you have to get clear on that vision. How do you know your vision is clear? Well, you have to clear the debris from the past suffering, the past hurt, the past programs. How do you do that? You have to be curious. So it all starts with curiosity leads to clarity. Clarity leads to confidence. Does that make sense?
Cool.
Yeah, and with curiosity also, I feel like at some point when we were trying to promote the retreat, right, we were talking about conscious masculinity. Let's come back together and let's heal whatever we have from our past. And a lot of people would try to come up into discovery calls to understand what is healing, and especially like in this part of the world healing for conscious masculinity is not something that is very used compared to the Western world, for example. And I sat down with a lot of people and I tried to explain my version of healing and why it's important. I mean, there's also different labels that sometimes people have different connotations about it. And the thing that I realized is that some of the people that were reaching out, they really want to embark on this journey of change, but there is this thing about, I feel contempt in my life. Why would I go
Content or contempt?
Contempt, as in like, I feel okay with my life right now. Why would I go to another level? Right. And that was the struggle for me to kind of debate if they're feeling okay with their life. Maybe this retreat is not for you, you know?
And you're right, though. Like I often talk about some guys, like I believe today guys are less and less masculine, right? Because they don't take action, they don't keep their word. But a big thing is even why people and men are falling short or not performing for themselves is actually because we've become so tolerant in our discomfort. Right? So we've become comfortable in our discomfort. We build this tolerance. And this was the thing for me when I could have pushed my business more years and years ago, but I didn't because, you know, there's this anecdote I always say about a man who went to visit his friend. And when he went to visit his friend, there was a dog sitting at the door and the dog was howling the whole time. And the guy said, "What's wrong with your dog?" And he said, "Oh, he's sitting on a nail in the floor." He said, "Why doesn't he move?" And the owner said, "It doesn't hurt enough." And this is part of the problem for people. It doesn't hurt enough. And because we become more tolerant, we can become more resilient in our suffering. And we wear it like a badge of honor. That's what people do. That's why I say when people write to me, I want to change. Like one question I ask every client when they book a call with me, I speak with everybody because I only want serious people. I'm doing it long enough. I don't want to motivate you. I want results. Like that's my legacy. So I say between 1 and 10, how much of a priority is it for you to take action now? 10 being urgent. 99% of people who say 10 never do anything. And I know they won't because they love the story. It sounds good. The people who say to me, I'm about a 7, I'm about an 8, they're the ones who take action. So you have to gauge how important is it for that person to take action now? How serious are they? How much does it hurt? How inspired are they? And then you go from there. But again, if they don't know themselves, if they are content and comfortable, that's their choice at the end of the day. But it's up to us, I think, as leaders or coaches or whatever, is to bring that out, to find out really, you know, to at least them to be aware enough to say, I'm actually comfortable in my discomfort. And that's why they don't take action until it comes to desperation. How many clients do you have or you have where they could have fixed it 5 years ago. I could have fixed my mobility. I'm in this world for years, but I ignored it. I'll run, train. And eventually I got to the point where like I'm in pain every day. I don't feel good. I didn't recover from the marathon. I got to desperation before I went to Adam. And I've been talking to people for years and I have friends in the industry for years, but I didn't want it bad enough. So unfortunately, and that's me, and I'm someone who's aware and who's a coach and who lives with this, but we all have that. So if we don't get clear on and the other part was I got clear, I want to be, my identity, my vision is I want to run, be fit, be mobile. I got clearer on my vision. So that pulled me. Okay, let me go do it now. But if people don't have the vision or they're not suffering enough, that's how they stay content. And the mistake from a business point of view or an entrepreneurship point of view is maybe early on we try and convince them. Let me get them because we want business or sales. That's not the way. The best thing you can do is stay in alignment. When you know what you have is based on truth and of value, the right people are going to come, right? And I get that from you and from that vibe is that's the surrender part. Because the fear part is let me tell him, let me convince him. But you don't. This is what we do. And once you're in your truth, the people come. And I don't know if that happened, but I'm sure that's what happens.
Totally. Yeah.
Everything is simple here. That's what's crazy. It's simple.
And Adam, did you felt with your students sometimes you, for example, you fix their problems and don't you think, okay, you fix, but they definitely get the same injury later on? I mean, they didn't fix those inner work and everything. You fix the back, you fix the posture, you let them go, and you know that probably they'll come to you back because...
I mean, the problem is that the people don't fix their issue just by like the regular physiotherapy. Like I say, it's just treating the symptom. So like each time you're going for massage or physiotherapy, they're just going to address the symptom what you have. They're not gonna go deep into the problem, the root of the cause of the symptom. So like if you're not gonna scan your body properly, and you're not gonna fix the program the way how you move, yes, and fix the background and foundation. You're not gonna work on your weakness. The problem always gonna come back. Yeah? So like it's not only about the treating or going around the problem, but it's going to the deep understanding where it's coming from. Because like if we, for example, going for massage because we have a back pain, yes, and someone is doing nice massage, is releasing a little bit of tension, but then during the training you're doing the bad moving pattern, you're still lifting how you were lifting wrong, yes, and still lifting with the bad technique, with the bad form, you're missing mobility, you don't have proper movement, you have muscle imbalances present still in your body, then you're gonna generate the pressure and pain to your joints, yes. Your spine is still gonna take that amount of the weight and pressure because you didn't fix something what's supposed to be done. Yeah? So like if we lifting wrong, if we jumping bad or running and sleeping at the same time, we're sleeping in the same bed position, crushing our shoulders, they're waking up with the pain over again. Yes, and we can go and treat this kind of symptoms with the chiropractic adjustment, setting up our alignment, but then we don't work anything, yes, to help us to really build the stability and strength around our alignment, so which is gonna collapse more and more. Yes, chiropractic, that's why I think chiropractic adjustment is just one segment of the whole rehab process, which is supposed to be done as a first point, but then someone's supposed to teach you how to, yes, work on your soft tissue mobilization, yes, how to strengthen the body, how to correct the movement, yes, and reprogram everything to be able to get you later that you don't need to come back over there. If you're stuck in the circle that you keep on coming back, like they sell that session and you every week you're going and see them and you don't do anything as a homework to help you to don't come back there, you're gonna stuck off being there all the time, and then you become unstable. Yes, because it's gonna hold the pressure. Yes, like if we have a tension in our body and someone is only gonna crack you and pull you, this tension is gonna stay there and it's gonna make your joints less stable. Yes, so it's gonna make you worse.
But the point is, everyone wants the easy way, right?
Yes, everybody wants the quick way, like the fastest way to get there. And don't want to work around it. Yes?
And it's the same on the inside, though. That's why they want a temporary motivation. That's why they want to listen to the podcast or they want to read the positive quotes, but they don't want to do the work. So they want to get the chiropractor to a massage, but they don't want to do the work. And that's we can't judge because we all have that to some degree.
Yeah, that's why, like you said, awareness. Yes? Like if people would be just aware, why it's better to actually do some extra work to help you to fix this problem for good. Yes, and then not just going on that easy way, that something which is going to give you quicker relief and you can come back, don't do anything else.
I think that's why it's so important today that we take advantage of these vehicles to demonstrate the value. Because I think, like for me, I was very slow on the podcast, YouTube. Even 2013, 14, people said you shouldn't be doing YouTube, and I was like, it's too late. 2014, I was saying that, and I was like, if I had done it then. But now I think we have to demonstrate, like, your knowledge, what you're sharing, what we're doing here today. Like, there's so many vehicles for us today to demonstrate the value. That is the good thing about the world we live in today. There's a lot of, challenges and everything, but there's a great opportunity for people to really seek out. Because I don't know age-wise, but I think, you remember when you were 12, 13, 14, it wasn't so accessible. Whereas now there's so much information available. There is a bit of diligence needed to separate the truth from other stuff. But at least now I think we have a responsibility to lead from the front by demonstrating it. I think podcasts are a great tool for that. So people can actually, like, if they listen to you talk like that, they're like, that's me. I need to go and do it. Or maybe we said something like, that's me. But if you get that moment where, like, that relates to me, that's your voice in, go do something about it. Like, don't wait, right? Like, how do you do that when it comes to the gym and people come for a month and then they don't come again? Or, like, what's that conversation for you to get people to say, listen, if you feel that calling, take action, stick with it? How do you address that?
Honestly, I tried many different techniques to motivate, go around, play with the mind. And reality is, if the person doesn't want deep inside, no single technique in the world will help. So at the same time, like, for example, I don't like sometimes when the trainers or coaches show, okay, look at my student before and after, look at this fantastic results. It's not about coach. Coach, okay, he is there, give ideas, so what is, for example, I'm into fitness, right? My goal is to give a right amount of stress, not to injure, and make sure, like, observe the proper movements, pair them properly, balance over the week. That's all I do. But I do it for everyone, but getting results maybe 10%. Because 10% really want it. 90% come in, am I bad? No, I'm not bad. Am I treat them differently? I'm not treat them differently. But this 10% really want. So when they want, everything is happening, like magic is happening, results are happening, they're losing or they're gaining, they get, like, whatever, they're fixing. So within the same words, which I'm talking from my mouth. So the ones who, there is even the way how we talk on the first initial session with the new students. There are students who already seek their way out from the beginning. From the beginning, they seek their way out from here. Like, they just join, and they already me asking already how to when I can stop and how can it. Like, it's not interesting even for me to go after them or to train them, regardless of the business. So, and they usually, these guys are energy drainers, and then I always, for sure, Adam has such people. You finish the session, you're like you so tired, like shit, and you have another person, and you need to, within 5 minutes, to quickly, change your inner state, because other person, you want to give good energy. So my motivation, honestly, at this, thanks God, I reached the level that I can choose the students. So I'm not
in the beginning is
at the beginning take worst. Everyone,
yes.
And
when you start freelancing at the beginning, you're taking everyone just to
and you
have
become
some money coming on. But as soon as you reach the point, then you get this freedom, like you can choose, and this is the best thing, like then you specify, I'm training those type of people who are committed, they are committed to change, they are into to go to this progress, and they're gonna stick with you, and they're gonna listen to you, and not that they creating something how they want to be trained. That's the most important, that they are in here for you, and they're gonna listen to you fully, 100%. They're gonna go with you those paths, not that they're gonna tell you how you need to train them, because it's not gonna work. And or especially, I also choose people, like, if I see that the people on my session, they are not on the phone, they are listening to me, they are 100% focused, then I train them. If I see someone is constantly picking up phone, is disconnected from the session, it's not gonna work. 100%.
The challenge is, though, when you believe in them more than they believe in themselves, when you want it for them, when you can see the potential, you're like, I'd love if you just believed in yourself for a minute. That's exhausting. Sometimes you believe in them, and then you can't, like you said, if they don't want it.
And of course, then, even from your profession, like, for example, let's imagine you love your profession so much, and such type of individuals make you think twice about your profession then, right? Like, for example, I'm not saying you need to change, but like you come, you was chosen, this is your calling to be a coach, leader, and motivator. And there are, I don't know, some of the people can discriminate your work, right? Or not even discriminate. Underestimate, find zero value in it and saying like,
I know it's going to sound funny, but no, it never happens.
Okay,
99% of the time. I feel like now, once you're in your truth long enough and you're putting it out there, like by the time someone gets on a call with me, they've either listened to my podcast, they follow on Instagram, they've been at an event, they've heard me speak at an event, or they know someone I've worked with. I just don't tolerate it. Like, I send more people to other coaches than the coaches get themselves. Like, I just don't take, if I don't get a good vibe, good interest, no. The odd time someone slips through the net, and even after a few weeks, I'll say, this isn't going to work. So very rarely almost ever does it happen where I get that people who don't value or don't appreciate, because by the time they get on, and that's why I speak with everybody, because I want to know who they are. Why now? Why me? Like, tell me why. Because if you don't have enough reasons, it's not worth it for me. So I'm very lucky, I'm blessed. I've made a decision. I don't even speak otherwise into my life. I wouldn't even speak it. I always say, don't be casual with your language, because casualness leads to casualties, right? So I wouldn't even speak that. And it's different in fitness, and there's a lot more kind of coming through the door. But once you get to a stage in your business and you really know who you are and what you're working with, somehow you only attract the right ones that are going to do the work. And again, if people are coming to me and they're investing with me and it's 3 months or more, I always say those who pay attention. The biggest mistake you can make is giving stuff for free. It's different starting out. You do some stuff for free or, but those who pay attention. I always say it should hurt a little. So, I'm lucky in that sense. People, when they come to me, they're ready. They're serious. So, but you have to allow people, as well as for young entrepreneurs listening, or if you're just starting out, be willing to do things, give more and you'll receive. But it gets to a point where you know that what you're doing has value. Don't be afraid to charge for that. Like, don't be afraid to put the price on that, because that's going to separate you. As long as you can back it up, as long as you can deliver, let people pay, because that will reduce the stress and the time wasted dealing with people who don't value you.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that. And I feel like we live in a place, and like other also cities, busy cities, which, there's a high percentage of burnouts. I go and I sit down with people who work in the corporate world, and I sit in meetings and I'm like, their energies are so agitated and you don't make me feel good about myself. And I just would wait for the moment to go for a break. And then I would go to other meetings where people are just chilling like now. And you feel like, a lot of good energy comes out. And I feel a city like Dubai, where a lot of people started to move in here, like quote unquote, Dubai is also kind of positioned in a way it has the successful people living here, and like the fashion, whatever that is like there's this notion of being in Dubai, you gotta like perform, you gotta outperform, you gotta even overly perform. And so the question is, how do we also talk to the people, and I used to be one of them, people who really get into a point where they're reaching to a burnout. How do they slow down and be able to continue their lives but live a more meaningful, purposeful life? What would be your take on this?
I think there's two ways. The first thing is the burnout often comes from being out of alignment. Trying to run fast in a lane that's not yours. Again, coming back to the clarity and the awareness. Once you find your lane, I think everybody has their own lane. And I think that's using God's gifts and finding what, as Steve Harvey says, what do you do best with the least amount of effort? Getting clarity is the first step. A lot of people are burnt out because they're in the wrong lane. I said they're building their house on someone else's land. That's why they're having problems. That's why they're stressed out. There's a lack of clarity, lack of awareness, and they're trying to keep up then with this illusion. Like I said earlier, what they think they want, it's illusion. It's not really what they really want. They don't know that as long as you're searching for a feeling outside of yourself, you're never going to get it. You're always going to be disappointed. And I work with a lot of senior level people, a lot of high level entrepreneurs. And, there's people I've one guy, he's an Ironman, married, 3 kids, and a leader, and a big responsibility, like hundreds of millions a year. And he's calm and chilling. He's fully in alignment. Doesn't mean he doesn't get busy. Doesn't mean he doesn't get stressed. Doesn't mean challenges doesn't come, but he's fully aligned. Then it comes down to just scheduling, awareness, execution, strategy. That's how we tighten that up. But when there's people living in lanes that don't belong to them, you're already burnt out before you do anything. So the first thing is getting, what's my lane? Find your lane. And again, truth and clarity is the only place to get that. And then though, when you are in alignment, and that's a lot of the high performance coaching that I do and stuff, is, okay, strategy. You have to have clarity first, but then the strategy, the execution, what's the schedule look like? There's just too much chaos in your life. There's too much, because you're trying to feed everybody. You're trying to contribute. You're in too many WhatsApp groups. Like a lot of people living here, they need to leave some WhatsApp groups. Like they're in too many chats, too many friends. That's why they're burnt out. They're not really burnt out, actually. Because if they got in alignment, got in lane, and then had someone to help them, guide them on a strategy, and then to hold them accountable, that's the last part, the accountability. We had this chat the other day. Why don't people keep stretching, keep doing the movement? Lack of accountability. So St. Adam's, there's an opportunity there for more accountability. That's what people want and need. And that's the key, I think. So once you get the truth, you get in lane, then it's just about execution. Then it's a case about prioritizing. What are the tasks that are directly connected to the outcomes? But everyone's trying to run around. And I see that. I work with boards, and a lot of the energy is bullshit. They're just, because I coach some of the board one-to-one, and then we sit down in a leaders meeting and they don't communicate what they told me. They give a different version. So by the time, every time they're in a meeting, they're exhausted. They're stressed out. Because they're not actually, they have no truth. They have no truth. They're not expressing what's in them. And that builds up and that rots. And then I'm burnt out. No, you've been keeping burdens in you. You're walking around with a 20 kilo weights vest all the time. And you don't know it. That's why you're burnt out. So that would be my slightly short answer to that.
I also think that the lack of connection with the nature, yeah? Like if people are stuck in the building all the time, in office, busy life, in a city, and that they forgot to connect to the nature, go outside, go real lights, like a lights from the sun, not only from the fake light in the building, which is like being able to be outdoors, like where we created, where we coming from, it was that the people were more outdoor, being more active and moving. If we stuck in the office all day long and just focusing on one point, then we can get burned out quickly.
But that's what you're saying, Mo, is that they don't allow themselves to go out because they think they have to be. If they're not in if I'm not in the office, I'm not performing. You know what I mean? So I think that's like.
But that's the finding the right, I think, balance, or being in between. Like you're gonna have a time for yourself to go outside. Yes, then you have a possibility to receive more information because you're gonna have a better focus, and then you're gonna go and focus on your goals. Like being in this two. Yes, like you have a time for yourself, for your health, yes, for exercise, and then going for your being, because you cannot stuck in sitting on the chair in the office all day long, because you're gonna break how long you're gonna perform well, yes, being in the office for like, for example, 10 hours a day, and then maybe 1 year you're gonna perform like that, but then what is gonna happen on next year? And that is gonna rip you off your spine, your hips, and and then people coming for a body fix. But sometimes it's too late. Sometimes it's too late because they didn't take care for many years what they supposed to have done before. What I think. Yeah?
What comes to me is the thing about working smart and not working long, like or working hard. A lot of people. I feel like also conditioning plays a big role in programming. You have to work hard. You have to be 8-9 hours. Where in fact, if you're able to find a really good quality time of your focus in 2 hours, for me at least, it's better than sitting in the office for 8 hours and seeing a lot of things not being done. So there's a lot of conditioning and programming that we really need to kind of unlearn for us to be able to then find that potential to push it forward.
Sometimes you can get this 1 hour more effective than 8 hours when you, for example, end up with a neck pain, yes, right. And then you cannot perform, then you cannot go again because you think about the pain. Mm-hmm. You cannot go and move forward. Yeah?
That's why you have to be curious though, right? You have to be willing to ask the question, because if you just buy into it, and that's what kind of the couple of years of chaos, people now realize they don't have to be in the office and they can be at home. Like that rocked the boats enough for people to say, okay, maybe this isn't for me. They question things. Unfortunately, people are always waiting for something external to come before they question. Whereas that's why this self-work, Jim Rohn, one of my mentors, my spirit animal, you might have heard of Jim Rohn. He said formal education can make you a living, but self-education can make you a fortune. But I want to go a step further, and I say self-exploration. You have to be willing to explore you. Who are you? What do you want? And then be willing to question everything you've bought into. That's the only way you're going to find truth. And that's the thing. Everybody else, I think, and the way I was, you're teaching these things to cover up these issues. The only way is to dig down in and to let go of what's not you. Like nobody, and for me, there's no holes in this. No one can convince me otherwise. You can't stick on these stickers of habits or abilities to do. No, we have to let go of all the stuff. But if you don't question that belief about, can I get that old way of 8 hours a day? Just like you have to eat breakfast in the morning, just like cereal is good for you. All these things people bought into because of conditioning. If you're not willing to question that, if you don't have the trust in yourself to question, you're always, that illusion becomes reality. Many people today are living in a reality because they don't question the illusion. They believe the illusion. And that's where people have to start. Just be curious enough to ask the question.
And that's what I really love about Greg. Curiosity is a big value for you. You keep digging into books and asking a lot of good questions. And but I'm interested to know also, like, what is really curious within your field right now? I know part of fitness and doing the connection between the mind and the body. What is one of the topics that you're very curious about? Because you inspire me with curiosity.
No, I think I always been curious, and I think I need to be always curious. I think the curiosity is the answer. You should be curious every year. So complacency is the enemy. So if I not be curious next year, that's the main problem. For example,
Being able to searching for more information.
Yeah,
more
yeah.
I learn, I realize that less I know. And it's like, I need to get this information. I need to learn more, and it was like, that's why I was also, looking and it's incredible. Greg also, he knows the experts from around the world, what I know, what I follow. And this is not often to see. That's why we like get into in common, and I like his style of training. Like I saw him training in Train SF back in a few years back. Like the way his approach and his training was completely different, something unique which you haven't seen. The improving power and performance and athletic development, and that's why I think I got interest as well.
So like even now on interview on the new coaches, I'm asking who you following from new coaches. Like when I'm asking guys to get in the team, who you following as a like do you have any guru right now for yourself? Nobody was able to answer me. Yes, like for example, like you can say you can follow Kelly Starrett, right? Or you will follow
FP,
follow
Sean
Jody
Patters,
Frank, or you follow Naudi Aguilar and everything. So there are so many good names. Like you keep saying Jim Rohn and Steve Harvey and everything.
Get your own authority,
Exactly.
And
there is so many names out there that we can learn, but I didn't feel from the young coaches who was telling me I'm following, for example, this and this guys. So curiosity is there is so many cool new names is coming in, and the good thing that I'm already sitting on the good experience to judge, not about to judge, but to like filter from the bullshit. So, but there are so cool stuff coming in all the time.
But I think the big thing, what I've seen over the last couple of years is, like what you just said, you're at the place where you're the voice now. Like the reason I'm currently writing 2 books is because I realized I'm using my words all the time. Like the odd time I'll quote someone else, but the majority of the time it's my words. Because I believe there's borrowed knowledge and there's knowing. And we all start with borrowed knowledge. Books, podcasts, mentors, learning. But when you walk your path enough and you're fully in alignment, that borrowed knowledge becomes knowing. Knowing comes from living. And I feel like that's what we're at now. That's why even I like working with you, is because it's pure knowing. He just knows. When clients work with me, I know I can see already 100 steps ahead because I've just done it so long. And the biggest thing is I think when you've done the work on you, when you've walked the path, it's a different level. A lot of people call themselves coaches, whether it's in fitness or business or life or whatever. They haven't walked the path. They haven't lived it. And it's okay if they say, I'm at the borrowed knowledge stage. But my issue, and I don't spend too much time on it because I don't care really, because when you're fully in your lane, you're in a creative mindset, not a competitive mindset. So I have loads of coaches who listen to me, follow me, and take my stuff, but I don't care because I'm in a creative mindset. Years ago, I'd have been competitive and fearful. So when you get fully in your lane and it becomes knowing, you're speaking your words and you find your way of explaining it and your way of explaining it, right? And you don't need those guys, and you become the guy they listen to. And I think that's a great signal that you're on your path, really, and that you're becoming that. And I think it's so important that we own that, and that when that you speak the trust again, and you trust yourself to deliver your message. Because everyone is borrowing pieces from people and collecting. But when you mix that with your gifts and your ability and your experience and your vision, that's you. And I think that's the most powerful version of you, when you can find that truth, And that's what I was thinking when I was listening to you, is you've become that for you. You don't need, and for sure we continue to learn and always being a student of yourself, but you're a student of yourself more than you're a student of others at some point. Would you agree with that? Do you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm trying not never give myself a credit, like in terms of that. Yeah. But of course, as you say, you walk a lot like path. So at least you're like, okay. And also I did so much mistakes. I'm sure Adam also did lots of mistakes in the beginning, and these mistakes is so good. Like I'll be honest, I injure lots of people myself. No, this is reality.
You don't hear that every day on a podcast.
This is reality. So
sign up today because
sign up, get an injury for free. Injury friendly training.
Yeah.
So, but it happens. It's teach me so much. I was like, I was sleepless nights and but I and very difficult because it was a period. It was one injury after another, and I was like, wow. But it's cool. I never repeat them anymore, and like
that's the difference, though, right? When you maintain the humility and you continuously want to learn and get better, like that's all it takes. Like no one says you have to be perfect. Like they'll say if you wait till perfect, it's too late. You know, so you know. And you're probably being a bit hard on yourself that, you know, they probably contributed a lot to that injury. They probably had other factors. So I think you're humble enough to say it was you, but I have a feeling they had something to do with it as well.
Aidan, while you're here, may I ask you one question? So I always, like, for example, you keep talking about clarity, and it's been the word, like, for me to reach, which I never been able to reach because I felt that always I was suffering from ADHD, this attention disorder things, like as we discussed with Mo before, like you have the computer and there is 55 tabs open at the same time. You're not paying attention to anyone, but you're not able to open one and read fully. So, and recently, I think on Joe Rogan podcast or something, there is one French psychologist, or American, whichever, he said this attention disorder, it's a coping mechanism. So it's just the way to cope with the world. So it's nothing, it's not disorder, it's just your way to probably escape, your way to dissociate, your way to do something else. But I found such a big burden of mine and such a big stop for me to develop myself further because I cannot reach those clarity. You trying to reach those clarity and it's fly away. For sure you deal with such clients maybe.
Absolutely. Like I always say, there is no easy or hard. It's just conditioned and unconditioned. And I have clients like that before, and a guy even recently wrote me like, oh, I was just, diagnosed ADHD. And I was like, but you've lived your whole life without that label. Like, let's walk the path down the road a little bit. How is your behavior going to shift now with this label? Yeah, probably. Is your belief about yourself going to adjust because of this label? And probably not in a way that serves you. We're so good to label ourselves, like to label you with that. And again, that becomes part of your story then. That shifts your narrative then. That's creating your story. And number one, you're losing energy. Number two, you have fear over it. Number three, it's affecting every decision. You don't really know yourself. So how can you love yourself if you don't know yourself? You believe this illusion about yourself. So it's affecting everything. What if you didn't put the label on? What if you didn't label yourself with that? What if you realize maybe I'm just a bit distracted? I haven't found the vision actually to fully pull me in. Maybe it started when I was a kid when, there was parents arguing or the parents weren't there or my brothers and sisters got the attention or I didn't get the grades in school and my confidence was shook or I had a bad game and I got stuck in that narrative, that identity. And then I just conditioned it unconsciously over years and maybe that's what it was. Maybe I'm afraid to feel the pain. Maybe I'm afraid to not feel good enough. Maybe I don't feel loved. That's what it is. It's distraction mode. And the world then will label you and give you medication and tell you, and then you're going to try and live within this limited mindset, limited approach, limited awareness, and you've belittled yourself. And they've helped you, but you have the choice whether you accept the label or not. You have the choice whether you believe it or you seek more. Like, just some of this wisdom is as old as time. Seek and you shall find, ask and you shall receive. Like the truth is out there. It's right in front of us. It's hidden in plain sight. But you can decide to label yourself with that, or you can stay curious and say, what if it's not that? What if it was something else? What if I just didn't have the direction I wanted? What if I didn't have the vision I wanted? What if I had limiting beliefs about myself? Now, I have an exercise with all my clients. I get them draw a line down the middle of the page, and they write perceived limits and real limits. 99.99% of the things you say about yourself are perceived limits. There's no, for me, the only way I'm going to play in the NBA, because I play basketball my whole life, is if I buy a team. That's probably a real limit, Other than that, does everything else can I buy a team? If I say yes or no, it's a perceived limit. But when we bring all of this, I always say, I learned this from a mentor years ago. What you can't deny, promote. So when you have a limiting mind, most people are leaving it vague in their back of their head. They just leave it vague in the shadows. But when you write that down, you have a perceived limit and a real limit, and you write down all these thoughts, and you're like, is this perceived limit or a real limit? what you can't deny permanently. That's bullshit. That's not a real limit. And you write it down, and then you look at, they're all perceived limits. And then you say, who would I be if I didn't believe those perceived limits? You'd start to get different answers. What action would I take if I didn't believe those limits? Wow, I do that. Now write that down. This action, this action, this action. So everything is just limited by number one, what you focus on, yes, but what you believe. If you write the word believe down, or belief, or believe, there's a word in the middle of that. Do you know what word is in the middle of that word?
Live. Is it live?
Live's close, no. Belief. What's the word in the middle of belief?
Life, love, I don't know. Interesting.
Lie. L-I-E. Believe is in there. Do you believe? It's lie. It's lie. You're lying to yourself in belief. B-E-L-I-E-F.
Yes. It's deep stuff.
I see what you mean.
There's lies in there, but you don't question them because they're a belief. And forgive me if people say I'm a bit cynical, but I think maybe someone put that lie in, that belief, for a reason. Because all the things that we believe about ourselves, that's what's holding us back. That maybe your whole life, and even now, if you didn't question that, you believe that's why this is an excuse or validation for what, but it's not a truth. Because when you say I have ADHD, do you feel like it lights up like a truth? Probably not. And you think of, maybe I've distracted, maybe I had fear, maybe I'm denying something. Oh, I feel that now. That's truth, because truth is undeniable. Truth doesn't need to be explained or translated. We can all come from different countries, different parts of the world. Truth is truth. And once we seek that, our body can tell us it's true or not.
What comes to me is that when it's actually a very strong belief and you're not even aware of it, like how do you deal with it? Let's say, giving an example, and when I was young, I was associated always with people who are like A levels, and they always had the biggest scores in the class or grades. And I would always want to be challenged to get the higher grades because I want to make my parents proud. But then I would do the best that I could, and I wouldn't be an A student, B, whatever. And that at some point started to become part of my identity, that I'm not smart enough. And so I started going back on university degrees, and later on doing MBAs and stuff like that, was just like, I want to prove to myself that I'm actually smart.
Yeah.
But then there was actually a deep belief there that I was not aware for so long, that it was even conditioned back from childhood when certain words were coming up, are you stupid, whatever. So there was a deep belief that I was not aware of, and it was operating my life for so long. And even now, sometimes I get trapped to this, is the question of, do I show that I'm authentic to myself, or do I go and pretend and wear a mask that I'm smart?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with these when it's a strong belief and you're not aware of?
So there's two things. One, the mask, like we all wear different masks, but we want to be aware of what mask we're wearing. Then we have a chance, right? The other thing is with the parents. I think everything started as children. And I do something with all my clients, and it always kind of gets a funny look at first, but it's called divorcing your parents. So the majority of clients I work with, I teach them how to divorce their parents. Because there's so many connections, unconscious bonds and connections from our parents, that like we're the only animal at 30, 40, 50 years old, we're still looking what mommy thinks or what daddy thinks, right? So divorcing your parents doesn't mean you had a bad childhood. It doesn't mean now you're not going to be friends with your parents or spend time. On the contrary, the opposite is true. When you divorce your parents, you actually free yourself. You begin to find your autonomy completely. You let go of unconscious beliefs that are there for decades. And now you can actually truly love and accept your parents for who they are, with a deep sense of gratitude because you're alive because of them. But you let go of the expectation that you have of them and that they have of you. So that's a lot of the work that we have to do. And oftentimes I'm in the suit and I'm in the boardroom where I'm working with the executives. And I feel like my mission now, since I had this big awakening a couple of years ago, it's kind of like a Trojan horse. They think I'm this guy coming in talking about this, but I have to come in with this deeper truth, because this is all that matters. I can give you all the textbook motivational stuff, but this truth is all that matters. Actually, this is what's going to set you free.
It's like the core.
But a lot of people aren't ready for that. I heard about the childhood stuff. Everyone's an expert, So the key is to really go back. And a lot of people say, I had a great childhood. So they immediately have resistance. Because again, the mind doesn't want to feel that pain. But there is hurt there. I had a great childhood. My parents are married 53 years this year. 53 years they're married. Great childhood. But my mother wasn't at my games. She was working on the weekend. My dad was working all the time. So even though they did their best to get the things, and even later in life they came to my events and everything always, But maybe as a kid, I was like, why aren't my parents there? Maybe. So when I do all this work, you have to ask these questions. Or if my parents argued, okay, what did that mean? Or I heard my parents shouting, what does that mean? When you're a kid, or my sibling gets all the attention, or I have to do all the jobs, or they were better at school. So all of these unconscious things begin. But as a child, you don't know what they mean. You just know how they feel. And then you develop your personality as part of that. So all that, when I start this process with clients, say, okay, what was your relationship like with your parents? Whose attention did you want most? And when I start to go down this path, we find the truth. And I have one group coaching program, and we do this with clients, and it's just like, boom. And there's emotion, and everyone's like, fuck. But that's the truth. They're for everyone. One person asked a question, everybody has the same story. And that's the beautiful thing I think about coaching, is bringing that out. Because it's so hard to label yourself. I don't identify as a coach because people have so many negative connotations. Coaching is something I do. But I would say I bring people's truth out to the surface. Call that what you want. But that's the key, is to be willing to question and to go deep into that. And again, a lot of your identities, let me go back and prove. So does that sort like that is not fulfilling. Okay, then you get the piece of paper, then what? It was never for you, it was for them. It was actually for your inner child. But your inner child doesn't want the piece of paper saying you got an A. Your inner child wants to dance, play and sing and love. That's what the inner child wants. Doesn't give a shit about a piece of paper. But you've bought into the belief that the paper means I'm good, I'm worthy. And this is where it all starts. And obviously we can't go so deep, like we'll be here all day, but
I like this thing what you mentioned about like divorcing your parents. Like if you want to, for example, have a different life than your father, you don't need to follow his steps and always advice. It's good to take advice, I think, from people who are, older than you and they have more experience, but not necessarily being in the same, like all the time rule. Yeah, someone is telling you what you're supposed to do, and you keep on following and asking for advice all the time. Yeah? Sure. So I think like if you're gonna find your own path, and you can beat that and go higher than that and be like financially freedom. I think we coming from the world that most of our parents, they actually been stuck in work and they weren't doing those things. Because there was no like online stuff. There was no being able to set up online business in the past, like 28, 30 years back. Yes, there was not many people being financially freedom this way. Yes, I think it's much easier now to reach this kind of position because the life is open up the door for us in the same time. Yes. What's your thoughts about that? Yeah, definitely. It's easier to.
And Mo, did you feel that when you did have those things, did you have that awareness like, actually this maybe wasn't true? Like maybe this was not something, maybe I put too much weight in. Did you have those kind of shifts in awareness at different points saying, actually I did it now, I proved myself, but maybe I didn't need to? And even now when it comes up, as you said, like do you feel...
Yeah, I think it goes back to the whole perceived thing that I thought I would receive from that thing, where that is a certificate or a training course, whatever. And the moment that I go through that experience, I'm like, not satisfied. I feel like dissatisfaction. Yeah. I was like, why did I put myself through this whole experience if I'm not satisfied? And I keep repeating it. Yeah. And then back to back on things. And it's just an interesting journey.
It's a beautiful thing about life. It gives us loads of opportunities to get the lesson, but it's up to us.
Yeah, I think we're having a great podcast, and I think we can talk all the night long, and it's a never-ending story of self-discovery. But let's summarize and make some good finish line. From my side, I know we're practicing, we're trying to get the flow, but I'm very happy that we are trying, and very happy so I have good guys and very bright minds already from the beginning on the board, and lots of things I'm resonating, lots of things I'll sleep over and it will come tomorrow as an answer. And I wish everybody here great success in their endeavors, because I see everybody has pure intentions, and hopefully if we get more tractions, we'll keep filming something more interesting if you can just ask questions. And Adam, what do you think? How do you feel about our conversation today?
I think amazing is we have a great inspiration here, especially, and a lot of nice topics. I learned myself as well a lot from to set myself in a position in here, and where I want to be, where I want to go, what's the goal. And I think a lot of people could benefit from this type of conversation, and I appreciate that these things happen today. And Yes, thank you.
Cool. More?
Yeah, I think my takeaway from today's podcast or conversation is everything comes from within, and it comes down to curiosity and clarity. So that's my takeaway.
For you?
Yeah, for me, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure meeting you guys, and thanks for Adam for setting it up and making this happen. I love just meeting like-minded people, you know, and when I came in and saw the type of studio you have, it reminded me of a friend back home, same kind of idea, real value, real functional, real purposeful. Meeting Mo, then hearing what your story and then doing what the retreats and everything, I was like, I'm not surprised, you know, and how me and Adam connect. I'm not surprised because you have a way of attracting, right? That's the way of the frequency and the vibration and finding your way. And I'm just humbled and grateful that we can connect. And I just think, you know, there's a lot more conversations to happen in the future. And just allowing ourselves to receive, because we all had to say yes to be here, right? That's the other thing. A lot of people saying, you made it great earlier. You said we have a great community, and then you kind of interrupted yourself and you said, yeah, but we built it. And people say to me, yeah, you live a great life and everything. I'm like, yeah, but I chose it. I fought for it. So it's not, we have to own that in ourselves. And I think we have to give ourselves, as Snoop said, I like to thank me. I think we should thank ourselves for saying yes. And people might look and say, how do these guys get together and chat? Well, we all had to choose yes. And that's always the thing. We have the power to choose. So if you're not getting what you want in life, because you're also making choices. You're choosing yes and choosing no. And if people are perceived to be getting more or moving further ahead, I just think they have more awareness to say yes to the things that are truly for them and being confident enough to say no to what's not for them. And I think that's what we have to continue to do. And we receive miracles.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Cool. Thank you.
Savage. Thank you so much. I wasn't great. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
My crew is all fired up. Y'all better just rise up. Everybody getting sized up. Before we all rise up. Start running your times up. Cause my crew fired up.